We are broadcasting live.
Good morning, everyone. This is the meeting of Mono Council for Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. This meeting is being conducted both in chambers as well as by electronic means, permitted under Section 238, subsection 3.1 of the Municipal Act 2001, as amended, and the Town of Mono Procedural Bylaw 2020-42. Residents can attend, obviously, in person or online and view the meeting at a later date through our website. I see that we have a quorum. Location of the emergency exits, just for everybody's benefit, is in the rear of the council chamber. And pecuniary interest can be declared at this stage of the meeting or at any point in the course of the meeting, followed up in writing to the clerk. And I'm going to call on Councillor Davey to do the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mayor. We would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the town of Mono resides within the traditional territories and ancestral lands of the Tionotante, the Attawandaran, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples. We also acknowledge that the town of Mono resides within treaty lands named under Treaty 18, the Nottawasaga Purchase of 1818. These traditional territories upon which we live and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions. It is with this statement that we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with this land, its waterways, and resources.
Thank you. I have a motion that Council approves the agenda of session 9-2025 as circulated, and I'd like to make one small amendment. And that being, it's actually not a small amendment, but it's an important one, that being an opportunity to talk about Bill 5 and potentially pass a motion, as there is a deadline involved in getting comments to the government. Is everybody agreeable to that? So approving the motion as amended. Any opposed? Motion's carried. I have a motion that Council approves the minutes of session 8-2025 as circulated. Any comments or questions about the minutes as circulated? Any opposed? And that motion is carried.
I think Mike needs to know the movers and seconders because he's all good. You're making them up, Mike?
I'm watching hands move around.
Okay.
We'll see how much trouble we can get you into. We have no proclamations at today's meeting. Public question period. Mike?
Thank you, Your Worship. Andrew, I think, has a couple from Anthony Hussein. Question is, has Mono looked at the CCFB grant for the paving of the Mono portion of the Mono-Agila Town Line? Agila Tasarantio has secured funds for resurfacing their share of this road.
What's the CCFB?
I think Les could speak to that. It's Canada Community Fund.
Yeah, they changed that term for gas tax. I still use the word gas tax because that's what I'm familiar with. For 2025 budgeting, we did not consider the town line using gas tax. If Council recalls, there was a tough budget process. The big project was Bridge 5, and with Bridge 5, even though we had the ability to use development charges, we still had to find the balance for that bridge. It was either through debt financing or raising the tax rate, which we did not want to. I mean, the tax rate went up as it was. It would have been a larger tax rate, and we didn't want to do that. So we moved around the priority of a couple of projects. If Council recalls, we deferred, at least for the year, the project Medill, in the Medill subdivision, where we were doing the drainage and ditching improvements. So that got delayed. So we pulled funding from that so we would have funding to get the bridge done. So for 2025, we did not consider the town line using gas tax.
Thank you. And I think it's fair to say that we use every penny of gas tax that we are entitled to. It's just that we have different priorities, and we applied those different priorities this year.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you clarify, please, again, what CCFB stands for? In the question, it sounds like it wasn't, when it used the word grant, it sounds like it was a special thing that was applied for and so on. Could you tell us again?
Can I get back to it? I know it stands for Community Partnership Fund, and those kind of words, but I'll look it up and get back.
That'd be great, thank you.
And it's always been characterized in the past as a portion, not so much a portion of the gas tax being allocated
Oh,
to
okay.
municipalities, not so much as a grant.
It's the Canada Community Building Fund. Community Building Fund.
Thank you.
Mike? Mike and then Elaine?
Thanks, Your Worship. And I think it's also important to clarify that the Public Works Department has prepared a roads need study, and it's very clear to, it should be very clear to Mr. Hussein that the Mono-Agila Town Line was not on the list as a recipient, although we did do some preparatory investigation work. Council approved something that Matt had brought a couple meetings ago, and he'll be coming back to council with the results of the boreholes. But it is not identified as a road that will be paved in the future.
And let's be clear, the investigative work that's being done on the town line is not in preparation for paving. It is to see what we can do to stabilize the roadbed and make it a better gravel road, as it were. It is, but let's be clear, it's not, it's not in preparation of paving. If in our lifetime that road gets paved, the work will be of value, obviously. Elaine?
Thank you, Your Worship. That is exactly what I wanted to bring up. We are not paving the Mono-Agila Town Line, and we are doing a special investigation into the issues that are surrounding the area that was identified by the 14 residents who signed that petition. They were not asking for paving. They were asking for a solution to stabilize the road. So just to make that clear.
Thank you for noting that they did not ask for paving of the road, because I think that's important to know. And it's not going to get paved any faster by continuing this drumbeat.
Thank you, Your Worship. Second question from the same resident. Will Mono be attending to fallen trees, branches with trees and foliage on town property throughout Mono? What is the cleanup process? Please provide an update.
Matt?
Thank you. Tree cleanup is ongoing all year round. Public Works has currently wrapped up street sweeping. They took care of the priority brush that came down during the last ice storm, and they've shifted off into calcium that they're applying right now in street sweeping, and it'll be ongoing throughout the year as required. So
Doesn't happen all at once, does it? Also, I think it's worth mentioning that we have our landfill dates well advertised and promoted. As well, Matt was able to add an additional date this last Saturday for people who want to take brush and fallen trees and whatnot to the landfill. But that's all that's being accepted there. It's not anything else. And I'd love to see us do even more openings at the landfill, but that's my personal view. Any other questions?
Thank you, Your Worship. And just to add that at Recreation they finalized quickly after the storm event. The properties and parks are done, and cleaned up, or working on it. Andrew, is there any questions online? I don't see any.
No one in attendance is online other than Elaine.
I'll leave that to you, Your Worship. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Ask the audience if there's any questions.
All right, yes. Any questions? Oh, yes, come on forward. And just turn on the mic and give us your name for the record.
Good morning, Emerson Pendleton, 20 Side Road, Mono. Nice to see you all again. Thank you for the excellent town hall on the weekend. I think it was very inclusive and engaging, and yeah, I think it was very, very good for everybody in attendance. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank you first of all for suggesting to save my powder for some of my ambitions with the discharge of gun bylaw. I know things don't happen with one meeting or discussion, and I know this has been an ongoing thing since last November. So I'm thankful the survey was sent out to actually give me a heads up of what was coming through, and it got me here. So I am thankful that the survey went out, and I will certainly take a measured approach with this, and I like to have a discussion, and I'll try to keep my passion tempered a bit to be constructive. And I also want to thank Councillor Capes for suggesting that I actually read the report and bylaw and do my homework. I feel very foolish for not have done that, coming here twice to talk about it. So I think that was very helpful as well. And I did read the report and proposed bylaw, and I do have lots of questions and comments on that, but I'll save that for another time, and I'll keep it concise for now. But I do just want to quickly comment on Resolution 3/2023, where Council asked staff to prepare the report on preparing the proposed bylaw. At the start, there was some whereas goals to address, to keep a quiet, peace and quiet and safety in the township. As far as, I know guns can be loud. I don't think bows so much, but there is a lot of road and agriculture noise in our township already. Last night in bed, I could hear a plane going overhead loudly. Like, in the world we live in, noise is a part of our environment. I do understand people want serenity, and I just want to acknowledge that. And the next whereas was gunshots are threatening, and people from trauma of war can be stressed from hearing gunshots. I recognize that can be a problem, but there are people that have been in serious car accidents and traumatic events from that, myself included. But I don't think it's reasonable for me to think cars should be taken off the road or prohibited and things like that. So that's just one comment I have as well.
Emerson, if I could
yeah.
just interrupt you there.
Yes.
The premise of your question is that is that you take issue with some of the whereases, which basically set up the motion directing staff to investigate.
Yeah.
That motion was proposed by Councillor Capes.
Okay.
And I don't want to get into a debate here about that.
Okay.
But staff would not have written the motion, to the best of my knowledge.
Yep.
And we each write our own motions, and then if passed, that's when staff get engaged.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. And I will keep it quick. I'll get to my request. I'll move on then. As we acknowledged in the town hall meeting on Saturday, the online survey indicates that people not from addresses in Mono Township will not be included in the survey. And I think council was receptive to changing that to people outside of the township. Is that the case?
Well, I stand to be corrected, but I think what we'll get by way of a report will be one that attempts to differentiate between residents and non-residents. So we'll see, presumably, how many residents responded and how many non-residents responded. And then we obviously would give the appropriate weight to whether or not a resident responded or a non-resident from, Alberta or Saskatchewan or something like
Sure,
that.
yeah.
So we'll see the outcome, and then it's up to us to make the determination as to the appropriate weight.
It appears online that when you read the text, it says that if you're out of Mono Township, your survey will be discarded. So
No,
will that
I don't,
dissuade
yeah, that may,
people?
it may well say that, but I think that in reality, we're going to get a report that attempts to. Now, it's not going to be perfect because,
Right.
you know, you can, trick the web into believing that you are local when in fact you aren't local and all of
Sure.
that stuff.
Well, right, and we don't want to exclude people who are, from other towns and other areas in Dufferin, but, are part of the Hunters and Anglers Association, right?
Absolutely, because on my property, I have people I deer hunt with out of the township, but they live in towns and stuff, and they do line their shotguns up at my house once a
Right.
year.
Yeah.
So those are people that need a place to discharge their firearms. Excuse me. But if you read the website, I want to encourage my friends to fill out the survey, but as soon as the web page pulls up, it's like, well, why would I bother filling this out? So I think some people maybe have been excluded from completing the survey, and I was just wondering if we could make an extension on the survey deadline to allow other people an opportunity.
I see Councillor Capes has her hand up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing that forward. In fact, when we were getting to unfinished business, that was going to be my comments about the survey, because I recognize that maybe we didn't take that into consideration when we were asking the question for the survey to be completed, that some of the people who were part of the Anglers and Hunters Association would be, excluded. And I guess I would like to ask if staff could actually extend the survey, and if we could change the online portion so that it doesn't say that. So that was going to be my ask for us to see if staff can make any modifications to that online segment so that it doesn't. It's too late for the printed copy, but we could put an announcement on the website that says, we recognize this and we encourage you to complete this form, and we will separate resident from non-resident and consider all comments. So I know there was a lot of concerns raised on Saturday from people who attended the town hall meeting, and thank you to all those who did, about the survey. And I know there is one question on there in particular that maybe we should have excluded, but people don't have to answer it. I don't think it's mandatory. Anyway, so
Elaine, if I
maybe we
can suggest, maybe we do a motion at, under new business that would extend the survey and alter the online wording.
Oh, thank you. That
Could
would
we
be
hold
great.
off until then, and then we can have a debate of council as to whether they wish to pass that or not?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
All right. Emerson, thank you very much.
Thank you. That was very helpful and constructive. Thank you.
Okay. So that takes us to our unfinished council business list. Any questions or comments about that? Ralph?
Just pulling it up here. I wanted to comment on number 7 and 5. And this applies to,
Ralph, I think you need to have the mic closer. I cannot hear you.
thanks.
There we go. We're in
Thanks, Elaine.
business.
How's that sound?
Houses and.
How we doing there? Elaine, can you hear me? Okay,
she's got her phone.
all right.
Yep.
So the number 7 is large residential homes and planning, and this is a question to our planner who isn't, I'm not sure who's representing planning on the staff right now. And the other one is number 5, which would be to Kim. The first one is on large residential homes, and it's, I'd just like an update on where we are with that. It's 2.5 years since we initiated this request.
So That report came to council, and it, I believe it's on the consultant planner's list to prepare a response that was going to go back to the Planning, Environmental, Natural Heritage Committee had recommended that, and then that in turn would come back with recommendations to council.
And where are we in that process, calendar-wise?
It's on our list of things to do, and I would think that it'd be reasonable to put that as a year-end submission to council.
Okay, I just think it's an area, the whole housing issue has been upped in terms of its importance from the federal level all the way down to us, and I think we need to be thinking about housing and have our ducks in line here. There's a number of issues that can be considered with respect to the housing shortage, which we all recognize as a problem. So that's the reason for bringing it up. The other one is the number 5 to Kim. In August the 22nd, we initiated a request for some, the goal is to understand and to control access to the Lynn Gibson Park. And the thing which was happening, I think, here was a data collection that was going to help this report. Kim, can you give us an update on it?
Excuse me, absolutely. I do have the data that I received from CBC with the trail counter and the video cameras that were installed. I will tell you that the results of the data were that we did not, or there were not any parking issues found or access issues. CBC is not concerned about access via Lynn Gibson Park. I do have that report and data. I'm more than happy to put a report together and share it with council. We've had the one challenge this year. I guess it was about a month ago. It was the first beautiful day that we had, and we did have the one resident voice some concerns regarding the no parking signs. So right now, our parking lot, 6 to 8 people, we do monitor that. Dave Makowski is up there at least once a week and has not seen any challenges. I've not had any reports or emails or concerns voiced other than that one parking challenge on that very nice day in, I believe it was March.
Thank you. I think your suggestion of tidying it up with a little quick report and get it off there is a good idea. That's all you want.
Kim, do you know whether the CVC is still promoting that as an entrance or exit from their land?
I'll have to double check whether or not they've taken it off of their website as an entrance. I know my instincts tell me it's still being promoted.
Well, I have a problem with that because that entrance into the into the Island Lake, that was always intended for local residents. And, you know, I think local residents would have an issue if it was totally blocked off. However, it was never intended as a shortcut into the CVC land or a way of avoiding the gate fee. So if in your report you could indicate what the status of that is, and likewise the other entrance off Blue Heron.
Yes, I do know we do have signage up at Lynn Gibson Park indicating that this is not a sanctioned entrance. That is signage that has been placed up there by the town of Mono, and that they should be using the entrance on Huron-Ontario Street.
And there's also the entrance into Purple Hill Park as well. So there's three
Yes.
entrances, the intent always being for the benefit of local residents.
Which the last time we discussed all of this, we put up the signs, right? At the 3 spots. Isn't there one at the 3 spot? I thought that's what we did. And then the signs are there, but, you know, people don't always pay attention to signs. And so let's collect some data. So
I
So,
can certainly guarantee that there's one at Island Lake, or at Lynn Gibson Park, absolutely. I would double check on Blue Heron and Purple Hill, but again, my instincts tell me it is there, but I can just do a quick email and I'll have an answer for council before the end of this session.
But the big issue is whether the CBC itself, who hasn't really cared about this issue since it first arose, whether they are promoting that through their website and materials. Okay. Anything else on our to-do list? Elaine?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Number 22, which I am very familiar with, it says it's assigned to council. So who on council is putting together anything to determine the cost of a feasibility study? I'll put my hand up to volunteer, but I didn't know it was assigned to us.
That's a good point. I thought Kim was doing some inquiries as to capital costs and potentially operating costs. You've already, that's right.
Yes, I did report that back to council.
Okay, so it's in our lap now.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm still not clear. We need to determine the cost of a feasibility study? That's what it says.
I think going back a few months when this was first, when this first originated, I brought information verbally back to council regarding the costs of feasibility studies that had been done by other local municipalities in the same, looking for the same type of construction that we were looking at, doing a pool, doing, you know, the full-blown arena. And I'd have to go back to my notes, but it seemed to me that feasibility study was in the area of about $40,000 to $50,000.
Okay, sorry, Kim, I'm totally forgetting that. But maybe we need a refresher.
and I thought that we then discussed it as well, thank you for the report, received the report, and said that no, we weren't interested in doing it. But it stayed on the agenda or on our unfinished business because we do have one council member who's quite interested in finding other opportunities. Because we remember it was around budget time, and we don't have 50 grand to spend on anything, let alone a feasibility study on a recreation center that you know is a nice dream.
Over to you, Elaine.
Well, again, I maybe I should have a conversation with Mike and Kim offline because I seem to be out of step.
Okay. I think we'll leave it there until that takes place, and then we'll make a determination as to whether it remains part of our list of things to do and priorities or not.
The other thing, if I could, Your Worship, is I want to go back to Ralph's point about the large homes. Since we started looking at this, and I'm going to say it was a long time ago when that house on a certain property was being built, that caused me to come to the planning department and say, what is going on? I wasn't on council then. And so I think the large homes report needs some priority because since that occurrence, there's been a number of more mega homes being built. And some of them are quite, well, they're obtrusive and they're in spaces where there are small houses and there are big, huge properties that are being built, and I think we need to pay attention to this. And maybe at the same time, we can deal with what the mayor brought up on Saturday at the town hall, is the size of the small homes. So maybe we need to look at that whole thing about, and I know it's in the official plan and all that stuff, but maybe we need to look at this seriously now and do something with our OP and our zoning bylaws. And
So Mike is committed to getting a report to us on that. I think I know one of the homes that you're referring to, which upon inspection just barely meets setback criteria in our current planning scheme. If we were to change that setback criteria for larger homes, there's no way that that structure would have ever been built. But it is jarring, to say the least, where it is and the context in which it's located. So Mike's gonna bring this back, right, Mike?
Yes, yes, as discussed with Councillor Migdal.
Okay, but not at the end of this year. Is that what I heard, or did I hear that wrong?
So I'll pull the, Councillor Capes, I'll pull the report that was prepared by our previous planner. I'll get the minutes from that meeting. I know that, I'm pretty sure our consultant had worked on that with our previous planner, so I'll get that back up to speed. I'll be able to give a better answer next council meeting as to where it stands and what the next step was. I vaguely remember the council directed it back to planning environmental.
Yes.
But I'll see if that's ready to go to them and get it off to them, and we can start to look at how this would be, how council's vision could be implemented into this.
And the other thing to be mindful of is that since this hit our sites, we have amended the development charges bylaw to differentiate between exceedingly large homes and regular homes, not necessarily by square footage, but by other criteria, and that is in effect. So, and it does acknowledge the fact that the larger home does put more pressure on our town services.
One of the biggest things of this whole bylaw is Les and I got to talk, because minimizing house size is a financial impact to the tax revenue. Taxes are paid based on square footage, and there has to be a financial analysis with respect to where we're heading with this and what the impact is, right?
Taxes are paid on the basis of square footage?
Impact assesses after the building permits are pulled. The square footage is assessed based on the square footage of the home.
Number of bathrooms,
But
number of
it's
bedrooms,
not
square
the only-
footage.
It's not the only factor.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Right. Okay.
You get farm tax rates and all sorts of things, right?
Yeah.
But if I could.
Thank you.
I think the issue has changed a bit in a sense that now that the province requires us to allow multiple homes on a lot, given that the septic and the well can handle it, the house size and the tax revenue, we're potentially looking at granny homes on existing lots, like where there already may be a house bringing in tax revenue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we don't want, what is it, 1,400 square feet? Is that our minimum?
Was it that they were going to, or was it that the beauty and the problem was that they're solving the housing by allowing you to have granny and extra things and so on, but no, it's not going to increase your taxes? Wasn't that what it was?
It's also contingent on servicing as well. So by right presumes that there is municipal servicing of water and sewage, as I understand it. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong.
Right now, it's full servicing.
Full service.
It's full servicing for a secondary apartment or accessory apartment.
But couldn't you also build a secondary dwelling on a rural lot where there's enough land to build another septic system?
Our zoning bylaw right now allows a secondary dwelling on, I'm gonna say 50 hectares. But it's lot dependent, and we have a distance separation between the main dwelling because council's intention of that zoning was based on proper children. Your children would have a secondary home. It'd be close to I think council was trying to limit the urban sprawl, the sprawl of a property where you'd have two different separate distinct families on the same property. But there is discussions right now with respect to that allowable square footage. Ours has to be subordinate to the existing house, so it has to be smaller than the existing house, and it has a lot area. But the Committee of Adjustment has, through consent process, minor variance process, has allowed secondary dwellings on lots that were smaller than the zoning bylaw, and that report was provided to council a couple years ago that I could circulate the link, and fairly recently. But the Committee of Adjustment still, assessing. There's a couple applications coming through now for secondary dwellings, and I'm trying to assess right now as I'm sort of thinking out loud whether the large residential homes could come in with the accessory units. The accessory dwelling units changes to the Planning Act, so maybe they can, and I think that's where Councillor Mankolo is going with the housing shortage. Big homes, lots of families is Council's got some thinking to do. Is 20 small homes on a property better than one large, massive home? So Council's got some thinking to do through this process, and solving the housing shortage can come and with many looks, and hopefully to the satisfaction of Council and the residents as we move forward.
Yes, thanks, Mike. I think that looking at it as a package, a home package has some merit. We're into a time we didn't think we'd have 10 years ago, which is a housing shortage and housing availability on pricing as a big issue. So times do change. So we're looking at both ends of the spectrum, I think, small and large, and it would make sense to be a part of a package. I'm not saying that's necessary, but we should consider that.
Thank you. Anything else? Next item on the agenda is there at my request, that being Councillor Cape's motion with regard to the International Countryside Stewardship Exchange Report. And in talking with our clerk, we are attempting to find a date for a discussion for this. I'm at a bit of a looking for council guidance as to what people's expectations are in terms of how we review the 1996 report, how much time we dedicate to it, because it could be extraordinarily open-ended and go on for quite some time, or it could be very short and sweet, and we pick the 5 top things from that study and potentially add them to our to-do list. I don't know, but we need some guidance from council so that we can schedule the broader discussion. It's not on here for the discussion today. So I'll open the floor. Fred?
I read the report, the what's it called, International Stewardship Report, and it's fine. It contains a
You'll
lot
need
of
to speak closer to the mic.
it contains a lot of nice words. The recommendations are fairly general. I love the one that they recommended that Mono and the town of Orangeville work together to create a green belt between anyway, never mind. There's some recommendations that didn't make a lot of sense to me, but here, when I finished it all, this is the thought I had. And Elaine, maybe I'm directing this to you. How exactly would our decisions change if we adopted this as sort of a criteria? And I'll be more specific. Could someone give me an example of a decision we've made in the last year that would have been different if this had been our criteria or framework that we examined them? And I tried to think of that, Elaine, and I know I'm not the smartest guy on council. I couldn't think of anything that would change by doing what you want us to do. Now, maybe that's because I'm a slow thinker. I'll gladly go for a special meeting and have a discussion, but as of right now, I'm just a bit stymied in how this changes anything.
Elaine, would you like to weigh in? And then I see Ralph and possibly Melinda have their hands up.
Well, I can think of one example. I don't really want to bring it up here because it's a bit of a challenge for us at council. But when we look at conservation and preservation of the green space that we have in Mono and all of the tools that we could use to accomplish that, we may have made changes to some bylaws that wouldn't restrict that. And so that's one answer I will give you. But I
Give me an
do
example of
think
a bylaw that would have been different.
the bylaw around parkland levies. We may have, if we had a different principle about saving and conserving the green space that we have, we may have used conservation groups as a tool to preserve our green space. And we may have made modifications to that bylaw prior to it becoming an issue.
Okay. Ralph?
We did make modifications to that bylaw, and we gave the Committee of Adjustment flexibility to do just what you're saying. I mean,
But that was after the issue had come forward, so it looked like we were being biased by some people. If we had had that without the incident of a specific property, we may have made different changes to that bylaw. There might be other bylaws that we might have put as a priority. I just, you know, we have our 3 E's, I recognize that, and they're still valid, but I do think we need maybe some stronger principles about where we need to focus our attention and how we do that. And so our unfinished business list may not be as long as it is, and it may be that it's put there based on specific criteria around the principles and the vision that we have for Mono long-term. That's all I'm saying. It's an opportunity to rethink that.
Thank you.
Or re-examine that.
Ralph?
So I'm a little bit confused as to what we're doing at this time, Your Honor. You brought up the issue or the possibility of us doing a special session to review this.
I didn't.
Okay, but not today you did, just a minute ago.
A special meeting?
Yeah.
No, I think Deputy Mayor.
Okay, well,
raised
whoever
special
brought it
meeting.
up, on the table, there is a discussion whether we should have a discussion of the countryside stewardship
Yeah,
exchange.
but that can take many forms. It could take, a dedicated slot of time on a regular meeting of council, could be a special meeting of council. I'm looking for guidance
Right.
as to what to schedule.
okay, just if I could
So the
interject,
question is-
I used the word special meeting, I'm sorry. I just was reading the draft motion, whatever you call it.
Yep.
So
Okay.
here's what I have. On one hand, we have a possibility of us discussing, or in some way discussing the countryside stewardship exchange. On the other hand, we have Elaine's motion here that we make use of this to provide a framework to help us make some decisions, particularly the unfinished business. What are we talking about here? Or do you want to talk about both these at the same time?
No, I'm trying to get direction as to, the intent of Elaine's motion is that we have that we allocate time and resources for a dedicated committee of the whole or training session to carefully review the International Countryside Stewardship Exchange Report. So, given the fact that that motion was considered by us on May 13th, and it was passed, I'm trying to get some guidance as to how...
Today's May 13th.
Oh.
Today's May 13th.
Oh, sorry, I'm just automatically reading. This is the old motion, but it's been re-stamped for today. But I'm just trying to get, like, I don't know what to schedule, and the clerk doesn't know what to schedule. Is it a day-long discussion? Is it a portion of a meeting? I need some guidance as to how high a priority this is for members of council and how much time they want to dedicate towards it. And Ralph, I'll let you go again, and then Elaine has her hand up, and then we'll see what Melinda has to say.
That clarifies it. So we already have the two issues on the table. Can we discuss them one at a time? And I'd suggest that we discuss the issue of having a committee or some other pursuing this stewardship exchange report. Do we want to pursue it in some way? Can we have that as a discussion? No?
Ralph, I can't hear you.
I'm asking, how's that? Can you
That's
hear?
better.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I'm asking what the mayor would like us to do right now. And I'd suggest that we discuss, there's two issues here that you've suggested. One is having a review, of some type of review of this exchange report. And the other is that we make use of it, as Fred has said, to amend our bylaws or to deal with our unfinished business. I think there's two things here. I'd prefer just to discuss them one at a time, so I can keep my
Right, I think there's only one thing here. One thing here that I heard is that how do we want to actually, because we said we would review it, how do we want to review that? Do we want to hold a committee of the whole, which is a conversation, it's not decision-making, and that's, just to review it and get our thoughts out. And then the second opportunity is to call a training meeting and have a review of it. So it's that I think is the question we're trying to answer.
Well, I'm not aware, Elaine, that we've decided to review this. And I think that part of your motion, it says here that it be a resolve that council allocate time and resources for a
Right.
training session, et cetera. So do we want to do that? And
I thought we agreed that. I thought that was passed.
Well, yeah, the motion was passed, I believe.
Well, it was passed, and that's what led to us then getting another copy of it, and us all then reading
Right.
it again in today's agenda. And so again, I come up with the same, it's a great, as I concur with the deputy mayor on this. So I don't think that it's a given. I mean, we're doing that part now.
Well, we're not diving into, recommendation by recommendation discussion. That wasn't the intention for today. It was just to get some guidance as to how much time we set aside, given the fact that our time is fairly precious and we have, normal business to attend to. How much time do we want to devote to this?
When did we pass it?
March. You just said.
Yeah.
I would like to suggest we do a half day. I'll start the ball rolling. So from whatever time to whatever time, we can do it a morning session or an afternoon session. Just take 3 hours and do something. Go through it.
What is the wish of council? Ralph?
I'll be the devil's advocate. I don't want to spend any time on it.
Okay?
Yeah, Elaine, I'm afraid I have to agree with Councillor Mangtalo. I think that we have looked at this now. It is a 30-year-old document, and we've done a lot of the things as a town, but also it just is so broad in its recommendations that I just don't see, when I look at the unfinished business, which we just went through, how many items on there. Like, it doesn't answer, it doesn't help us, I don't think. The bylaw for fine reinforcement and the road allowances and like it just, well, maybe road allowances, but it doesn't, I don't see how spending a day on a 30-year-old document is really going to help us with our unfinished business list or change the view. I mean, it's a helpful, nice thing that they did, and but I don't know that we're not already alive to those issues, that Mono is lovely and that we would like to keep our rural in the face
But
of.
now we're getting into the discussion, and so this
Okay,
is
so-
what we want
okay.
to understand.
Okay,
How
so pardon
people
me.
felt.
Pardon me, then I'll keep it short, that, no, I would prefer not to spend any time on it.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, but, that was the whole reason we wanted to have time for it, to have that kind of a conversation. So,
Well,
okay.
Fred?
All right, I will weigh in and I'll agree with Ralph and Melinda for this reason, Elaine. When I asked you for an example, you said, you gave the example of the parkland fee issue. I would maintain that if that had occurred and we'd had this as a framework, we would have come along and said, oh, here's our old bylaw. Gosh, it's got a problem because it doesn't give the Committee of Adjustment any flexibility. So we changed the bylaw. We did that without this as a framework. In other words, what my argument is I think given our strategic plan and everything else we've got, we're basically already doing all of this. So I still can't quite understand what would change if we'd spent a half day talking about it. Sorry.
So I have an idea, and it may be a compromise between those who want to, our councillor who wants to spend time on this versus those who don't. And that is, if there are recommendations contained within it that can be distilled into items to be added to our to-do list, then I think we would be open to considering those, because our to-do list is determined by council by way of motion. And if there's something that leaps off the page of the countryside report that should be part of our list of things to do or to investigate, then maybe that would be the more efficient way of addressing the recommendations that, as somebody has said, are nearly 30 years old now. You know, let me put it into another context. 30 years ago, I was on council, and I was part of this process. And it wasn't sure, we weren't sure at the time what direction Mono was going to go in terms of whether it would become a bedroom community for Toronto, whether it would be swallowed up by Orangeville, whether it would ideally retain its rural character. These were all issues that were on the table. And what the countryside report did was it sort of drew us back to what makes our community unique and what over the past 30 years I think we've all bought into, and that is we are a rural town with very distinctive character that is worth preserving. But when this report was commissioned, all of those things were up in the air. And it helped refocus our efforts to preserve what we have. And I think that's generally been accepted. There are people who would still like to see us build subdivisions, but they're usually developers. There are people who would like us to pave roads. One of the stories I remember vividly from this exercise was we asked the participant planners and experts, what would you like to see in 10 years? And the answer was no more paved roads, which I found fascinating. I found that absolutely fascinating. And that was their way of defining a rural character. So, having said that, any member of council is free to move any motion at any time and to add to our to-do list. If there is something in the countryside, a report that we should turn our minds to in particular. Having said that, I would like to encourage staff to come back to us as to how we can tackle some of the issues on the to-do list. A lot of them are clerk issues, but there are some things on that list that I think we could contract out so that it's not something that the clerk is going to have to worry about, and I think we can do that very efficiently. I can think of a few examples. So I just throw that out there. We don't need a response today, but I think council would be open to finding a way of shrinking the size of that list and maybe adding a few things that flow from the countryside report. Elaine?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And yes, Fred, you put me on the spot to come up with an example. My thought was that there's a lot of really good content in that report. And it was just for us to have a conversation, not to debate things at this table, but to have a conversation about, after reading it, what stood out for you? What stood out for you, each of us, that you think is important that we should now keep in mind that maybe we weren't? What stood out for you that maybe we've done a really good job? John just summarized some things that he, stood out at the time he was involved. And to then take anything out of that and say, this can guide us with our unfinished business. And it wasn't to say just what's on the list now, but what should we put on that list? And so it was an opportunity for us to take an outside report on what the countryside looks like and take that and digest it and say, how can this help us? How can this help us work with what we have, work with the future, and just to get thoughts on it. So, we've already had a discussion now, and so I guess there's no real need to have a discussion on it, but I thought it would have been helpful to get people to look at it, read it, digest it, and see if there were any gems in there that we could take to use for our council for helping us in decision-making.
Go ahead.
Melinda?
Yeah, Elaine, and I have to say that when I read it, so I read it when it first came out in March that we were discussing it, and then I read it again in preparation for today's meeting, and my end was that, this was a helpful thing 30 years ago. It's a good thing because the stuff on the list has been dealt with, and it is part of the fabric of the way that we think about things already. So I was at a loss to what extra is it that you would want when I then look at the unfinished business. We already are, and you're right, it was bubbled down perhaps to the idea of the 3 E's, that it dovetails with these 9 or whatever 11 recommendations in this document. So thanks for explaining that, but yeah, it was helpful to read it.
Right, and to that, if I could, Your Worship, is to say, thank you, Melinda, but that we would all be on the same page, like we would all bring those thoughts forward and say, what are the things that we as a council together want to ensure as we move forward? So, thank you.
This was I thought it was a very neat report at its time, and it was done by a group of international experts in various areas. And they were not involved with Mono, so it was an outside look. I thought it was a great thing. When I look at it, there's 4 areas of emphasis. One was the developing a shared vision, and I think that's to some extent has happened over time. Then the other one was that there was the lack of a physical center here, and that's just Mono, and I'm not sure that that's a problem, but that's what we have, and we are a combined rural and a suburban center. The third was to protect the character of Mono, and I think that's been done in spades by the planning department and by the various councils that we've had here. And the fourth was about municipal governments, and I think our municipal governments has moved along very well. I'm very pleased with the staff, and I'm very pleased with most of the council's work. So I think that we've followed through on this stewardship recommendations very, very well. Now, with respect to making use of this as helping our to-do list, I tried to do it. I read the report through, I summarized it, I broke it down into different areas of recommendation and looked at various of the reports or the to-do list and tried to say, is this going to help us make decisions here? Or is particularly, I think when you brought this up, correct me if I'm wrong, that this would help us with prioritizing. And it really didn't. So I don't feel that using this as a framework to help that process is effective in my view. I think actually we're pretty effective at prioritizing things, and we're prioritizing them as they are important in 2025 rather than in 1996.
So there, we just accomplished part of what the meeting was for.
I think this has been a very good discussion, and while it doesn't result in scheduling further discussions, as I said at the outset, members of council are free to read into that report what they want to, and they can always introduce business for us to consider in the context of what that report says. So thank you for reminding us, Elaine, because I'd long ago forgotten the report, and I couldn't find my original copy of it. But I certainly remember the process, and it was very, very valuable. And I'll just leave it at the following statement. Shortly after that report was issued, the town of Orangeville launched an amalgamation effort that would have involved the entire county of Dufferin, becoming a city of Dufferin, as we dubbed it. And I don't think we would have fought that as strongly or as effectively as we did without the countryside report. So in that regard, it was of huge assistance to us. We started off as a township, we became a town, and there was symbolism in that, and there was literally no other implications that I can remember anyway. And the countryside report gave us the courage to say no to what was an amalgamation predicated on some very, very thin reeds.
So, Your Worship, I'm confused. Is this motion on the floor?
No.
Okay.
No, it's just simply to remind us of what we had considered. Any staff comments?
So, sorry, so in March 11th, just for, it was withdrawn, the motion.
Was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it was withdrawn. Yeah, the request was withdrawn, moved by Mengtlo to withdrawn. So it never got to the floor, and it never got to the floor here as well.
Thank you for that refresher.
Right, so it never got to the floor, so is it withdrawn again, I guess?
Well, if it's been withdrawn, it's been withdrawn.
Right, so it never made it to and there was no mover and seconder today, so it's clear.
But just to finish it, I like the mayor's suggestion. I mean, we've all read the report, and if in reading it, a light bulb goes off in the back of our minds that we're not doing something, we either bring a motion or maybe initially just a piece of paper with things we should, I mean, we're all free to do that without having a half-day meeting, okay? That's, I like the mayor's suggestion.
Okay. Elaine, are you okay with that? I could see the countryside report being part of the whereases of many motions, whereas the countryside report stated that. Elaine?
Right, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mike, for that reminder, because I recall that now, is that the request was that we all have time to take because not everybody had the report or, needed it again, to review it, and that's what we took away, was for everybody else to review it, to come back to say whether we needed to have a conversation about it or not. So thank you for bringing that forward. And so I guess, I don't know if the motion's on the table and you want to vote that you don't want to review it, then, or have a meeting about it, then that's great. I'm disappointed because some of the conversation that's happened here was precisely why we wanted to have a meeting to get people's thoughts about what that countryside report said to them, did for them. Ralph just gave us these 4 recommendations and how his update is. And now we've already had, like I said, I'm sounding like a broken record, but we've just had that discussion now without having the discussion and without having a separate meeting. And I don't think we've given fulsome attention, but we've given it attention.
We have indeed given it attention. Okay.
Yeah, and I want to remind us, too, that the report actually got brought to us by our CAO, who, and I forget what the context of, but it was before March, I forget what the context of it, and you had actually physical copies of it still. And then Elaine had looked at it and said, let's, right? Do you remember why you brought it to us originally?
The context was right around it was around the comment with respect to the economic troubles that the town would be faced with in the future with low growth, low tax income, while striving to protect our environment. And it was around the time when we were starting our budget, we were through budget discussions. It was the section of it that really struck me as today being current, that the beauty of Mono, protection of the beauty of Mono, and no growth to fund it would be one of our biggest struggles. And I found that very current as to where we sit today, with zero growth, a little bit of growth in the south end, marginal growth to 2052, and still trying to figure out climate change and things like that. But just no growth to support to keep the machine moving. We don't have that funding coming in, and we're still trying to protect our environment. And it was current. That was why I shared it with council. I felt it to be something of interest, and it wasn't outlined at all that we weren't looking at our boundaries with a very open mind. Like I think council's doing a great job protecting the environment and trying to establish good climate goals and good environmental practices throughout our committees and it was really about the financial troubles that could or would, they predicted would be on the horizon for us, especially with, and they did talk about reduced provincial and federal funding in that report as well. And that's Les spoke to that multiple times. So it was just because I felt some of it to be predictive and current.
Well, and Les can remind us what the financial circumstances were of the late 1990s when we had so much more in the way of grant income from the province that we no longer have. We had a period of time where there were 1% increases in budget and or taxes, and in one year in particular there was a zero increase, or in fact I think a decrease if I'm not mistaken, because some of our earlier subdivisions had come online and were creating assessment growth for us. So things were fiscally very different back then as well than they are now. Well, thank you everyone for that. I'm going to suggest that we take a 10-minute break and then return to the agenda. Great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for that conversation about the report.
We are back live.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Next item on the agenda is the Ontario Transfer Agreement, firefighting gear dryer. Is there any member of staff who is speaking to this?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Basically, this is a continuation of a grant that we received earlier in the year that council signed the transfer payment agreement. At that time, it was actually for the Rosemont District Fire Department. We received $8,230 towards turnout gear dryer. Chief Mike BYLAWS received a letter from the Fire Marshal's office saying, look, we have some surplus funds. If you're interested, send us a letter of intent that you want whatever we have. And so we sent the letter in, and it's the $300 and some that they're willing to give us. So to do that, we still need to sign another transfer payment agreement. But I figured any amount of money is good.
Okay. So I have a motion that we introduce, oh, sorry. Yeah, let me put it on the floor. That we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw authorizing the town of Mono to enter into a transfer payment agreement with the province of Ontario, substantially in the form as attached as Schedule A to the bylaw, to receive funds for under the Fire Protection Grant Program, and that be signed by the mayor and clerk for the town of Mono, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. And Councillor Davey moves, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nix. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, just, I'm curious about one thing, Les, and maybe you can't answer this. This dryer, we had an incident 10 or 12 years ago at the Shelburne District Fire Board where a truck had gone over and there was diesel fuel in water, and the men went in with their gear on, and they came back, and as I remember it, we had to throw that gear out. We couldn't get the diesel out of it. Do you happen to know, does this dryer, when it says that it removes cancer-causing contaminants, can you put outerwear that's had diesel on it into this dryer and get it fixed?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I really can't answer that.
Okay, maybe Melinda knows.
It'd be a question to the fire chief at the next board meeting.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Yeah, to clarify, this dryer was a $13,475 dryer. So, and it makes it so that instead of the firefighter's outfit, which each of those to outfit a firefighter, and we heard at our last board, it's over $8,000, $8,300 or something to outfit. To outfit. So they have their, regular uniform one, which is, a $35 shirt and some $100 pants, but then all the other stuff that they wear when they're actually fighting fires.
Bunker suits.
Bunker suits, and is a lot of money. So they're very valuable, and you don't really want to get them wrecked. And so the cleaning of the diesel is a separate issue than drying the equipment, and the longer that it takes to dry is a problem as well. So this is something that it doesn't actually clean them, but it does dry them. And so on the surface, when you read it, it looks like, oh yeah, there's a grant, and then now they're asking for the $300 for the dryer, and that is not $300, it was $13,000. So then it's like, well, okay, well, wait a second. The grant was only for 82, now plus this additional 3, so it was only for 8,500, and they had to spend 13. Where did the money come from? Did it come from us having to be asked for budget things when the fire budget happens, and we come back and ask the town, which then goes to the taxpayers, which actually, no. The other half of the money, 50-50, came from the Firefighters Association. And the Rosemont Firefighters Association are an amazing organization which does a terrific amount of fundraising and then gives that money back to do this sort of thing, buying extra apparatus and so on. So kudos to our Rosemont Fire Department.
Any other questions, comments? There's a motion on the floor. Oh, Elaine?
Yeah, I just want to say, it's so nice of the government to give us $361 more, and why couldn't they just give it to us instead of costing us, how many thousands of dollars to process it? Just, anyway, just making a snotty comment. But yes, it is, as Melinda says, the
Won't be the
funds were
last one
raised
in this
for the
meeting.
association, and it's very much appreciated. And of course, we do appreciate the additional funds, and this will help in reducing incidents of cancer, and that's what we want. We want to keep our firefighters healthy while they do a job to protect us.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is Stormwater Pond Survey Tender. Matt, if you could just briefly address this and.
Yep, thank you. So council will likely recall Public Works over the years bring in some budget every fall with respect to stormwater management and making sure that we keep these systems in check. Obviously, they process a lot of all the stormwater throughout the subdivisions. So Mono has 12 of them, and they range in age. So Public Works has been taking it upon themselves over the years to manage the debris and the sediment and whatnot. But it is with the CLI ECA, it's kind of pushing us even harder to make sure that we're compliant with the stormwater. So Michael Nicholas, Public Works Manager, and Matt Noble, Operations Manager, have been doing a lot of inspections over the last year or so. And part of this was the drafting of this tender to get a better idea, a picture of how much volume is left in each of these ponds, so we could prioritize them in our capital plan for the next 10 and 20 years. And then that'll help us bring some important information to council in the fall as part of the budget. Happy to answer any questions.
Melinda, then Ralph.
Thanks very much. This reminds me of two little things here. This reminds me of a comment that was made as a question when you guys as staff weren't here at our town hall, and the fellow who had written, whose name I apologize for not remembering, but who had brought up by email to me, and I forwarded it to you, and about the putting some paint on the roads as opposed to some stakes with respect to things. But again, I ask this every time we get, this is terrific that we had 9 people answer it, but the variation, like it almost begs, I mean, 27 is so low that it almost begs, we're not going to, it's not an undercut thing, right? We're sure that this is the right, like I'd go with, if it was me in my house, I'd go, middle of the road as opposed to the lowest, just, we're sure that this is going to be good.
Thank you for that question, Councillor Davey. I agree with you. That's what popped out to me as well. There's some engineering firms in there that I've worked with over the years, Tatham, Blue Metric. They're not far off, right? And it all like, $6 grand. So they're not far off. We feel that based on the calls that Michael has made, with in the reference checks, we're comfortable with what we'll get. So they're willing to work with us, and we've chatted with them, and we're looking forward to getting this information. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ralph, and then Elaine.
Yeah, that's two comments or questions, and that's what has been my thought as well, Councillor Davies. We seem to always, I'd say almost always, pick the most reasonable, the most least expensive, and you wonder if you're getting the. And I know you do reference checks, and I think we rely on you for deciding that the cheapest one is also going to do the job adequately. My comment is about what's going to be done, and it's a volumetric check, and it states here that they'll be accompanied by a report that will detail the remaining volumetric capacity for each pond. Are these end ponds, or do they have a drainage? Is the pond at the end of the drainage area? Is it the pond, or does the pond then go on to drain into another waterway?
The pond it processes all the flow, so it comes into the forebay, which is the initial stop gap that holds all the sediment, and then it overtops that, and it runs through the pond, filters more, and then it goes out through an outlet structure. So it does process it, but the pond holds all the sediment and debris.
Right.
So we have a design volume of the pond that meets the overland flow that it receives with the subdivision and the lots and everything that its capture area. And that design volume, and over time it fills up with sediment, So we know the design, and then we take a survey of what it is now, and that gives us our remaining capacity.
Okay, I'm starting to understand it. So with time, the volumetric capacity of the ponds decrease because of the amount of sediment that's building up.
That's right, yeah.
But the water portion, it does flow off into another location usually.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, through tributaries. They're usually just upstream of a natural
Right.
tributary.
Now, my understanding, with limited reading about the stormwater management ponds, is that they need to be sized to fit the runoff area, and that runoff area decreases depending upon the imperviousness of it, which is particularly affected by development. And that amount depends on the rainfall. And rainfalls are more extreme. I think of the rainfall that we had that flooded the Nottawasaga River, was it 5-6 years ago?
2017.
How much was that, was flow? You had that
As I
number.
remember Bob Shirley's rain gauge, we had 5 inches in 2 hours or something, something like that.
And so probably, in my reading about climate change and extreme weather events, this is probably going to occur again, and maybe worse. So will this study take into account predictions of future runoff?
No, but this allows us to these ponds to act as the way they were designed, right? So if you have an influx of water, they're going to overtop so there's 2 ways of these to drain. It's a hick and bottom, which picks up it bottom draws the pond and kind of outlets it. And then there's like an overland flow. If you get a significant flow, it's going to flow over the bank and overflow. So if these have the capacity, they're going to be able to process that flow properly, right?
So the bottom draw is sized to the amount of increased flow. So do you have an assessment of whether that's going to be adequate with future extreme weather events?
No, it's designed whatever when the subdivision was designed, it would meet the criteria of that time. So it's just like a bridge. Your soffit elevation on a bridge is set at whatever design flow the storm can withstand.
So just like a bridge, now we have triaxles going over it, and we didn't design it for them. So in this situation, we have stormwater ponds which were not designed for the increased rainfalls we're going to get in the future. And I'm questioning whether or not we shouldn't be thinking about that.
Certainly. Part of the CLI ECA, the annual assessments that we had to have posted on the website, the ministry requirement, we had to have that posted, the annual reports. Those things would come into play. If there was concerns of not being able to withstand storm flows, then that would be part of those reports, which gets published on the town's website. They have to be by April 30th of every year. So we have to inspect regularly, and part of those discussions are with the town engineer and the original stormwater reports that were required by the developer when the systems were being built.
So help my ailing memory. Will those reports be brought to council or summarized by yourself?
The annual reports?
Yeah.
No, they were posted on, I believe I sent an email to council to let them know that they were posted online.
Okay.
The annual report did not come to council.
Thank you.
But, and just to side, so a lot of these ponds, some of them are dry, so they have a little tributary that runs through them, and others are water. So there'll be a bathymetric survey, so they have to have like a sonar type to measure the ponds.
Mike and then Elaine.
Excuse me, Your Worship, just sorry to put you on the spot here, Matt, but I think I can ask a question of Matt that may help Councillor Manktolo get to where you wanted to do. The measurement of the volume of the silt, which is what you're really doing,
Yeah.
will give you an idea of how much silt needs to be removed in order for the pond to function as designed. And that reoccurrence, that timeline for removing the silt could be addressed with the climate change. The ponds may not be sized adequately for today, but the removal of silt will be expedited probably as a recommendation to ensure that they're always available to take on the increased rainfall. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, yeah. Like they have over.
Right?
Like there's, like I said, all the ponds have a overflow, right? So they will overflow into a natural tributary. It just won't be processing that water to the same amount. So they all kind of set at the same elevation water-wise. If the ones with the water in them, they stay at a set elevation that's supposed to be managed, and we ensure, like, we monitor them regularly. So if we see a pond that's high, for instance, 2 years ago, Medill subdivision, operations went by and saw the pond was full, which never happens. So we went in and had a look, and it was trapped beavers had the downstream tributary blocked off. So we had to go in and pull that all out so it could start functioning properly again. So it's expensive, and it's better to have this information to understand when we have to clean these out. Because Fieldstone, the developer, did it in 2022. It was around $1.5 million to clean that pond out. So that subdivision was constructed in 2014, and it already had a significant amount of silt. Now, that was during construction. A lot of those lots weren't sodded and seeded, so they weren't vegetated. So a lot of that construction debris did make it to the pond, and that was a requirement of the subdivision agreement to ensure that they are cleaned out within a X period of time. But just to put a little bit of perspective in the cost of these things, if we don't have a plan, it's really hard to, like, some of these ponds, like I said, are 10 to 40 years old. So the 40-year-old ones are getting up there. Cardinal Woods, phase 1 and 2 are, the oldest ones we have. Starview is one of the older ones as well, early 80s. So we do need a plan for them because they are expensive, and we want them to function properly. We want them to filter properly before the water's discharged into the natural environment.
Did you say that the Island Lake Pond, that's the one on Blue Heron Drive, I think, cost of $1.5 million to?
Benson, Fieldstone subdivision's off Benson. It's the big one as you come off of French Drive.
Okay, yeah.
And head
I
north
meant
by the
Benson, yeah.
pergola. And, so that one was done in 2022, and it was about 1.5 million.
Wow.
So these are expensive, and that's why I keep asking for the reserve every fall, because it's a lot easier to spread that cost out, and it's just, we know they're coming, and we have 12 of them. So we just want to make sure they're maintained accordingly, and Public Works is doing what we can to maintain them.
I'm sure you've
With our own staff, but it's a bigger picture when you're having to have a location to dispose of the material on top of it.
Is there a disposal issue with respect to this material, which is contaminated by roads, et cetera?
Yes, it fits different types that has to be sampled, and then it determines a receiving site.
Okay, thank you.
Elaine?
Thank you. And because Melinda brought this up, it was at the town hall mentioned by a gentleman for solutions around our fire hydrants and snow removal and putting stakes in and spray painting them, etc. Spraying lines on the road may not be the answer, but I know in other jurisdictions they put a post on the actual fire hydrant that stands up so that you can see that fire hydrant no matter how much snow there is. So just ideas for you, Matt, because, you like new ideas. Anyway, I do want to say thank you. I believe we're obligated to take the lowest bid unless we dismiss somebody who's bid because they don't have qualifications or have a bad reputation, etc. And so I just want to say that I appreciate that you do all of the due diligence on the tenders and accepting those tenders and the due diligence on our stormwater ponds, and that you are very proactive in protecting our assets. So thank you for that.
So I'm going to put the motion on the floor. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the motion's on the floor. I just wanted to ask a question, if that's okay.
No, I haven't read the motion yet.
You didn't?
No, we haven't. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, quickly.
Matt, the two unassumed stormwater ponds, does the agreement with the developer require them to make sure they've been cleaned out before they turn them over to us?
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Okay. Now, I know where one of those ponds is. It would be Fieldstone, right?
Yeah.
Where's the other unassumed pond?
It's the one north. It's not technically a stormwater pond.
The one north of what?
Of the Fieldstone Pond. There's
okay.
two kind of control reliefs there.
Okay.
That we want them to assess before before that's
Okay, I'm
assumed.
fine.
Yeah.
So I have a motion that council for the town of Mono accepts the bid price of $27,798, inclusive of HST, from JP2G Consultants of Peterborough, Ontario, to survey 12 stormwater management ponds and prepare a report. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Capes moves, seconded by Councillor Mantalo. Any further questions, comments? Any opposed? And that motion is carried.
Just,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, so just, thank you, council. Just to clarify, like, so if we're working with this consultant, it's a low bid. If we don't get what we want, the consultant doesn't get paid. So it's a fairly straightforward survey.
Right.
Right? We're surveying the ponds. Surveying is pretty straightforward. And then we specify what we want to see in that report. It's a pretty simple volumetric math exercise, and it doesn't have to be an elaborate plan. It's just looking for volumes here. And Councillor Capes, with respect to your question or your comment about the hydrant, Mono does have the hydrant flags. We leave them on all year round because it helps also in the summertime for fire trucks to see them because they have reflective tabbing on them. And I have spoke with operations regarding the painting of the street. We are going to try that this winter. We still probably will have a hybrid with the 2x2 posts in the ground just to kind of indicate certain areas. But yeah, we like that idea, so we're going to try it out.
Well, thank you for addressing that, because the comment was that, I sent you the email, and I think I responded back to him saying, yes, I forwarded it, and yeah, he thinks it's a good idea. But then, when the work comes around and he saw the removal of the post, it's kind of like, well, not that while you had somebody there. In his mind, of course, would have been a great opportunity to have painted the line at the same time. So, save. But I said that no, that it would happen in the autumn.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm all for efficiency, but I also don't know how long those paint markings will hold up throughout the street sweeping and everything else. So I don't anticipate waterborne paint to stand up on the streets throughout the whole winter or the summer months. And then but I do agree it's a good idea, and Public Works will be doing sidewalk inspections, we'll be doing curb and sidewalk repairs, catch basin repairs, so those are also good opportunities to do that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the report of the Director of Recreation having to do with bench donation program. I'll read the motion to get it on the floor, and then we can ask questions. That we receive the Director of Recreation's report, bench donation program, dated May 7th, 2025, and that we approve the Town of Mono municipal bench donation policy. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Mantalo moves, seconded by Councillor Capes. Questions for Kim or comments from Kim? Go ahead, Ralph.
I think this is a great idea. And I wish I'd thought of it. Question, I noticed that the selection of the bench is at the discretion of yourself, which I think is very, very appropriate. I'm just wondering what type of benches are we likely to see?
So right now, the Recreation Department, and we've got a standard bench that we're trying to put throughout all of our parks so that we, so that everything is the same. However, on trails, I've left it open because in the past, I've always enjoyed the very natural type of benches out on the trails. So that location, we may put a different bench. So that's why I have left the choice of the bench up to the Recreation Department based on the location.
Fred?
Yeah, I may have read this too quickly, Kim, but I think it's a great idea, too. I couldn't find whether or not you said these donations, the donor would get a charitable receipt. I assume they would. Donation to the town is considered a...
Yes, that's
Yeah,
correct. I have vented that through our treasurer, and
Okay.
that's correct.
Elaine?
Thank you. And This is great, and you see it in very many places. The question that arises in my mind is the maintenance cost for these benches going forward, and who bears that cost? And what happens when a bench needs to be replaced? Because I recall this coming up in our budget conversations about other benches needing to be replaced or maintained, and it's quite expensive. So I want to know who takes ownership of that expense.
The benches that we are, or the Recreation Department is suggesting that we put in are made out of recycled plastic. So they have a longevity to their lifespan. As far as there being a lot of maintenance costs, we do not perceive that. There is a small amount built into the donation amount that is required to cover the cost of possible maintenance. But once the benches are installed onto a cement pad, which is, again, that also has been built into the cost of the donation, then other than vandalism or whatever occurring to them, which hopefully will not be the case. We've been very, very fortunate in the recycled benches that we presently have out at the parks that they have not required maintenance with the town, from the town.
But just to reiterate what you said, that maintenance cost is part of the donation to put these in, so that it doesn't cost the taxpayers any money for these at any time.
That's correct.
Okay, that's great.
Thanks very much. Yeah, so I was just trying to find in here, was it 2,300 or 2,800? 23, right? Okay, because I couldn't find it in here. So now, this is a great idea, and but we need benches all over, and we've been, as a council, refusing to put the benches in because 2,300 sounds like in a thing on its own. Making a donation for a loved one doesn't sound like a whole lot of money. We could, yeah, this is good. But when it's, on our budget line, it gets cut. So will these benches, is it, and I know Councillor Mangtalo has said at the discussion have pointed out that the location and the type of bench and everything at the discussion of the Recreation Department, but Director, but this will be park benches in our regular spots. It's not like we're going to have a bunch of new benches in different spots. It's that these opportunity to replace the benches that we haven't been able as a town and a bunch of taxpayers collectively to afford, that it will be those spots as well will be included, correct?
Correct, and I'll highlight the word "as well," or words that you just chose. There are certainly benches that need replacing, and those will be the key spots that I will be looking at for where the benches should be. There is the opportunity that if the person who's making the donation has a location, and once I take a look at the location and am in agreement that this location would be of benefit to visitors to the park or the area, then that's not to say that I wouldn't think about that location.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. Any opposed to it? Seeing none, the motion is carried. Next item to consider is the DEI Committee resolution of advice, flag raising policy, and accompanying that on the agenda is a copy of the current flag raising and lowering policy. Mike, can you shed some light on this?
So with the installation of a few flags that vary from, the raising of flags that vary from the Canada flag and the Town of Mono flag, the DEI committee was concerned that there was flags outside of those two regular flags. It was unfortunate at that time that we didn't the DEI committee read section 3 of the flag raising policy, but didn't read the following section. So if council was to ask me if the flag raising policy is being implemented properly, then yes, all the flags that have flown at town hall have been requested through the flag raising policy and approved by council. So, so I would say yes, that this is, sorry, I'm just looking for the wording on the resolution of advice, that I would be able to report back to the DEI committee as soon as tomorrow night, that all flags that have flown outside of the Canada flag and the town of Mono flag have been approved and vetted by council.
Fred?
I have one question, because it said, the policy says we won't raise flags for religious groups. I looked up the definition of Sikhs in Wikipedia, and it refers to it as an ethno-religious group. So it's an ethnic group of people, in which case we could raise the flag, but it's also a religious group. And we raise the flag for the, I have no problems with doing it. I'm just suggesting to you that doesn't seem to be in accordance with our policy.
However, any of the above can be approved by council. That's right in the flag raising policy.
Okay?
Yeah, so you can choose to, council can make the decision based on the current policy to raise whatever flag they want or whatever flag they don't want. And this is to be open. This was exactly how the conversation started at the DEI committee.
If that's in the policy, there's no need to have this clause that says flags won't be raised for the following groups. Because when in fact what you're saying is council can use its discretion if any group applies. I mean, what if the Liberal Party of Canada came to us and asked us to raise their flag?
That would be the democratic process that would make that decision. It would be vetted through council.
Well, then I'm suggesting we don't need this part of the policy, but anyway, it's okay.
Well, can I speak?
Yeah, oh,
Thank you. Good points, Fred, and thank you for the clarification, Mike. I think this is a problem. I thought it was a problem when I first came on council and was invited to the flag raising for a religious group. And it has, we've done it every year. And this year, you know, the world changes all the time, and people's views on things change collectively. Sometimes you get some people who are way out there, and so you have to think about, you know, but it seems that collectively there is an issue with this. And I know that we have the ability to approve, so I also wonder whether instead of taking the angle, which is it's an angle that, you know, why have any when it's all just left up to council, but it's good to have some safeguards and some things that we need to, as a council, think about very carefully and so on. And I know that you often don't want us to, you know, ask the community about things, but I don't know that we want to change our policy particularly, in which case I wonder whether this should be addressed as on a larger scale.
Well, can I?
Go ahead.
I would just say that the danger is if we have overridden council has overridden the policy in one case for a religious group, then we really have no choice but to do it for any religious group that comes along, right?
No, can't you then say, oops, whoever the council was that made that decision had a different amount of information, and we have new information now, and we're entitled to make decisions in light of new information. I ask it because it is, there's no question, it is a religion, and I wonder, you know, we don't do the whole religion thing, right? Like it.
Ralph?
I think Fred makes a good point, as do you, Melinda, but we have a precedent set. Then you say, well, we've done it for this group, we should do it for the next group. So it becomes more likely that you're going to make a positive decision because of the previous decision that was made. You have a bit of a problem with it. I think you're right. We can say we've changed. We didn't agree with the past council, or we didn't agree with what we thought was right last year. But I think religious groups are a potential problem and a point of division, and we should be cautious.
Well, to add fuel to the debate, there is the reality of the Ontario legislature recognizing the Sikh Heritage Month. And there is the reality that I think every other municipality in Dufferin does a flag raising for them. So if we were to change on that, we might be all on our own. However, there was a lot of social media chatter about, well, what about us Christians? Don't we deserve to have a Christian flag flown? Well, okay, or a Christian month proclaimed. And there is a movement out there, and I don't know, what it's comprised of, but I suspect it's probably not mainline Christian organizations. It may well be a segment of the Christian population who is alive to the fact that, hey, if you can put up a Sikh flag, what about something that proclaims Christianity? And I don't know that there is such a flag, but I anticipate that we may well be approached on that.
What about a Santa Claus at Christmas?
Well, yeah, and this is where I think that we have to ask ourselves, what is, and this comes from, Councillor Mantelo's motion and the free flags the other day and the flag flying now in front of my house. What are the flag poles there for out front town hall? And we're representing government. And by definition, government is all of us. We all contribute to it. You voted for us. We're here representing all of us. So is it really necessary every 3 days or every new month to change our flag from our real main issue that we are the town of Mono and we are Canada? Why do we keep, and then, of course, and we fly that Canadian flag, and do we also put our Mono flag at half-mast too?
Nothing can ever be above the Canadian flag, so if you...
So they all go?
They all have to drop in unison.
Can I suggest that we give this some thought, because frankly, our next challenge is going to be flying the pride flag. That will be the next step.
They're not religious.
And truth
They're
and
not religious.
truth and reconciliation flag as well.
Truth and reconciliation.
Yeah, it's not...
But some of the outcomes of this debate have been in municipalities where, okay, you don't like this particular flag, then we fly no flags, okay? But I don't know that we want to go that far, but I think it's worthy of some thought. I don't know that we can make a decision here and now. And maybe we look at this religion or part religion. I think this Sikhism is not exclusively a religion. There's an element to it that goes beyond that.
Well, yeah, they don't have a country, and they're lobbying to get one, right? I mean, it's a big picture, and you're right. Pride's not religion or whatever, but just if you go the way of just could we all rally together around the one thing and the what brings us as unity, as opposed to pointing out, because it doesn't necessarily discount the differences by celebrating the similarities.
So I tend to be more liberal than tight on this, but it might be just for your information to know that Ralph Diffendorfer, I like that name, Ralph, and Charles C. Overton in New York City, they designed a flag which is called the Christian flag in 1907. And that flag is a white flag with a blue canton that contains a red cross.
Wow, okay, didn't know that.
So So how would you, can we have a broader discussion
Well,
about
let's-
this?
Let's think about it, and maybe we'll get some reaction to the discussion that we've had today, and see if there's any need to amend our policy accordingly. Like, I just, myself, I'm not, my first reaction is leave the policy as is. But I think we can have another discussion on another day. There is no motion associated with the advice of the DEI committee. I think it's just here for our discussion. So that brings us to Schedule A, and I have a motion that we accept Schedule A to this agenda. Do I have a mover on that? Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Capes. Discussion of items on Schedule A. Melinda, anything?
I'm forgetting what I can write down, so no, I'll wait till the end.
Okay. Fred?
I just want to ask a question on number 3, on the Superior Court decision. The developer in that case could still come back to us with an amended proposal. But here's the thought that went through my mind. I mean, the current proposal was for 220 units and a sewage treatment plant. If they came back with 200 units and a sewage treatment plant, I assume our response would be exactly the same. And as I thought of it, basically, if they came back with any proposal that included a community sewage treatment plant, our response would have to be the same. To go back to the original designation of that land, which was highway commercial in our official plan, I'm assuming you could build, I don't know who could answer this, but is that property big enough to build like a strip mall with their own septic? The hotel right beside it has its own well and its own septic system. So I assume that the developer could come back to us with something that was closer to our original intent and just have septic beds, and then that's a different question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're talking highway commercial uses?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be zoned appropriately. And the treatment of sewage with respect to the hotel, we're not involved with at all. The occupancy is different than, like the MECP is involved in the hotel sewage treatment. They have reporting responsibilities to the, and a commercial use, the town would not be involved with at all either. So in theory, I guess, they could put a treatment system on there for a highway commercial use, but that'd have to be vetted engineering-wise. But as long as the use was highway commercial identified in our zoning bylaw, they'd have to satisfy the Ministry of Environment on how they treat their sewage. And remember, we're in source water protection areas and everything as well, right?
Can I just ask a follow-up question then? Have we had any indication from Aragon as to whether they're coming back to us? Do we know yet?
This is very hot off the press. And no, there's been no outreach from Aragon.
And let's be mindful, we're still within the appeal period.
Still within the appeal period, sure.
Elaine?
Thank you. So a question, is a YMCA considered to be highway commercial? Anybody
I
know?
think there's institutional uses within the highway commercial, but I'd have to vet that more. I know daycare is within a highway commercial use.
Okay, so,
But
yeah.
a YMCA would drive, if it isn't, it would fall under recreational institutional, I believe, so. If it wasn't, it would be up to a zoning bylaw amendment.
So recreational institutional use is applicable in a highway commercial zoned area?
I don't know, Elaine. If
okay.
if it was, then great. If it wasn't, then a zoning bylaw amendment would be required.
Right, so if the answer was positive that yes, it is, then there could be reconsideration to build a YMCA there and put a pool in, because I know there's a high demand for the pool at that hotel. after speaking to that owner. And so, you know, all of those programs that would be accessible and in walking distance to the community who live there, I think that would be an agreeable thing. So if anybody who's a developer is watching this and listening to this, maybe they could consider that.
Well, the property's owned by Aragon, right? Like it's not
That's
town
what I mean.
property. Yeah.
If a developer is listening.
So the ball is in their court, both legally and otherwise. Ralph?
I have three items in Schedule A. Two are, I'm requesting information, and one is probably a motion. The first one is about the discussion of Aragon's proposal, and in the endorsement, it states, in the absence of costs outlined from the responding party, I guess that's us, there'll be no order as to costs. Is there something we should know there? Is that something we should have done, or?
So the normal process, John and I had a back and forth, and I never finalized with John. In the normal process of the LPAT or the OMB, we would now ask for costs.
I see.
Town solicitor had identified that normally on a case like this, specific, you may get, you know, $7,500 back or something, which would be subtracted based on Jeff calculating all the costs, right? So, but the way it was explained to me that in the expedition, in the want to expedite these files at the OLT, they're making decisions and writing in no costs available or allowed to stop the next process. They're making these decisions off the cuff now, not off the cuff, but on the record, basically saying no costs. So
We can't submit for costs?
we
now
can't
this
submit
time?
for costs right now. Yeah.
Okay. The second one is the other, get the right number for you. That's number 2, the line 2 developments. They make I'm not sure whether we should be discussing this now because some of this was in camera, but so I'll present it. Their concern was that we refused or neglected to make a decision. And that's not my recollection.
You're 100% correct. So as council will recall, and documented by our YouTube coverage of the stat meeting, the applicant left the the applicant went through the planning environmental meeting, and then the applicant came to the council meeting, which was the stat meeting. And council will recall that the applicant's agent left that meeting acknowledging that he had heard from the public, heard from council, and that they would generally go back to the drawing board, and that town would hear from them in the future. So council was
Waiting for that.
the process ended there. Like and staff met with the applicant following that meeting, and was still under the same impression. And all I can guess is that the applicant went through how the process would have went, and this is their quickest way to get to the finish line. They assessed what they applied, and obviously want to stick with their main submission, and they assessed that they had heard from council, and went through the process and deemed that the quickest way to expedite was to go to the OLT. Council will be hearing from town solicitor on May 27th meeting with respect to the course management the court case management conference, which has been set for, I can't remember, July-ish, June.
I hope Exhibit A is going to be the YouTube video of the applicant making the commitment to us that they would go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, this is, I have to have conversation with the treasurer with respect to this file, and it's a case management conference that, and we'll be discussing with council on May 27th as well.
Anything else?
Yeah, the third item was item number 7, which is with respect to soil management, and I'll be presenting a motion that we support Amaranth's position on this. This is an interesting subject. It's something that we've all taken for granted. It's just dirt. And it's what we survive on. And it's an increasingly, when I bought my farm, I don't think I valued the dirt that much. I devalued the vistas, I valued the pond, the forest, but not the dirt. And the dirt is a tremendous ecosystem service for us in many, many areas. I won't go into it. But it's beginning to be recognized that it's a finite item, and that we are losing it and degrading it. We're losing it to development. We're losing it to just to climate change, and we're degrading it by what we do with it. So I think this is a really great motion, and it's based on the Senate committee, and you've probably all read the summary of the Senate committee, and it's a really well written. I think that we're going to hear more and more about this, just as we've over the years become aware of water pollution and the importance of water. We're going to understand more that soil is a finite thing which we have to take care of. And I support fully the resolution of the Township of Amaranth, and I would like to have a similar resolution prepared for the Standing Senate Committee on Agriculture and Forestry with copies to, and Fred Simpson will not like this, but to the similar number of parties that were included by Nicole Martin of Amaranth.
So you
And I'll
want...
second that motion that was just put forward by Ralph.
Okay, so just to be clear, it's a simple motion endorsing Amaranth's position, or are you proposing a separate motion be drafted reviewing all of the same issues?
Thank you. I propose a separate motion that, because there are 2 items that Amaranth has selected, and they're identified in the last 2 paragraphs, and I think we should identify those items.
In fairness to our acting clerk today, I think if it's a simple motion endorsing Amaranth's position, I think we can handle that. If there's more elaboration required, I think it should be something that is written out or brought back in 2 weeks' time, one or the other.
Well, I think that's very appropriate because the first one that they mention is elaborate in that it supports the recommendations, and we'll consider how to implement the recommendations when completing a review of the Township of Amaranth's official plan. So that, in other words, they're taking it home for themselves, as well as recommending that the Government of Canada move on this. And so I'd be happy to have this come back as a separate, and there's no time issue on this.
There's no time issue?
No.
So if you could work with Fred on that, on the wording. Mike?
So, and then that motion will support Amaranth's motion and it'll further our position.
Elaborate our
position.
I'm not sure whether we want to be a part of the first resolution, which is that it will be a part of our...
I cannot hear.
Sorry, I didn't have it on. Thanks, Elaine. I'm not sure that we have had enough discussion to decide that we want it to be a part of our review of our next official plan, but I think that we probably should support that. Is that sufficiently confusing?
That's, that tells me that me and you are going to talk in the next 2 weeks, and council will have a motion back.
So we'll take this as a notice of motion then.
Okay.
Okay. Elaine?
Could we do both? Can we just do a simple, we support this, and then come back and do a notice of, do the notice of motion and come back with our own motion?
We certainly can.
Let's take 2 weeks to do it properly.
That's why I think Councillor Mengtel's motion could in generally support Township of Amaranth's
Start out
motion.
by supporting
And
Amaranth.
further that, the township, the town of
Yeah.
Mono.
Okay.
I think, that's what I think, they just bulk it into one motion.
I think so. The motion is getting better the more we think about it.
Yeah, yes.
In 2 weeks, it will be brilliant.
Well, that's a notice of motion. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that forward, Ralph, because I too wanted to bring that forward, so there we go.
Elaine, do you have any other items on Schedule A?
No, that was the only one.
Fred? Nobody's jumping at the ending daylight savings time?
No.
Okay, so there is a motion that we accept Schedule A. Any opposition to that? That motion is carried. Reports of members of council. Les, anything? Matt?
Thank you. I have some items here. 5 Side Road rehab between here Ontario Street, or Dufferin Road 7 there. Sorry, not here Ontario Street, Dufferin Road 7 and First Line is expected to commence around the first week of June. Cox Construction, council will recall, was awarded that project. So Michael Nicholas is managing that job. It should take about 2 to 3 weeks to complete. So that's just pulverizing existing asphalt, base course, shouldering. We'll be coming back to council in the fall for budget for top course.
What's the limit of that extension? How much? How much of that road is being done?
From Dufferin Road, Hockley Road, Dufferin Road 7 to
Yes.
First Line. So right over to, in front of the Ag Center, right over to First Line.
Yeah.
As council mentioned, the landfill was opened early. We had an early day on the 10th. We added operations staff, managed to squeak that in as we were in and out of there with street sweeping material and all the brush that we're picking up from the ice storm. So we managed to get that in kind of last minute. I think there was about 5 or 6 days. So I apologize to any residents that it was last minute, but it was, we did receive, the tenant had 13 people come in on Saturday. So that was positive. The next date is May 21st. That was the first scheduled date. So that'll be coming up on next Wednesday. Street sweeping was wrapped up on May 5th. Calcium started May 8th and is ongoing with same as road grading. So we're getting a little bit of rain this week, but by the looks of it, so that'll help with grading and applications. It's not supposed to be getting too much of a deluge of rain, so that's good. Light rain will help save pumping some water out of the roadsides for that. All traffic calming measures have been installed. So we have 4 locations in Cardinal Woods subdivisions and Watermark, Kingfisher for the humps. We have installed 3 locations of the pinch down delineators in the Fieldstone and Island Lake subdivision, so First Line and on French Drive. So we have 2 locations of the pinch downs around the wastewater treatment plant location and just east of First Line. Michael will be arranging for some traffic counting data to be taken during this time to see the effectiveness of them. It's the first time that Mono's used the pinch downs. So we'll keep an eye on that, as well as the speed humps. We're going to measure that too to see the effectiveness of those. So that's ongoing. And Mono Tree Day, Public Works managed another successful tree day. Big thank you to Sylvia Medeiros, Water Wastewater Asset Management Assistant. It was her first year running that program, and it was a really good success, no hiccups. So those were picked up on Thursday, May 1st, Friday, May 2nd, and Saturday, May 3rd. 105 landowners participated. 523 trees were purchased and planted. About 6,000 seedlings were distributed. Slight drop from last year, but very nominal. And to date, from 2003 to 2025, 9,000 trees have been planted as part of this program, and over 210,000 seedlings. So it's been a really good program over the years. So happy to report that, and that's all I have.
Matt, don't let me leave today without talking to you about the speed hump in Starview.
Starview, okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Kim?
Yes, I have a couple of things for council. One is I'm happy to let council know that with the new facility booking software that we've put into place, potential renters of Menorah or Mono Center are now able to see online what dates are available at our facilities. And then they simply click on the date and the facility that they are interested in. They immediately get a facility booking request. That pops up, they fill that in, it immediately goes to our recreation assistant, Emma Holmes, and she reviews their inquiry and sends them out the appropriate information and hopefully moves forward with the booking. So it is really been a tool now that makes things so much easier for residents or potential renters, that they can see themselves online what is available at our facilities. It's really streamlined the process. Following that as well, letting you know that I know at our last meeting I talked about getting new software for the booking of our tennis and pickleball courts, and happy to let you know that we did find a software program referred to as GlowFox that was even better than what I was anticipating and that we would find. That booking software is now up and running, and so all of the people who are have chosen to purchase a court pass through the town of Mono, they go directly onto that booking software. They are able to book the time and the place where they want to play, and they're given the code for the gate, and away they go. That software also allows us to sell our passes right from that software program, which we did not think we were going to be able to do, but we are. And in addition to that, it also allows for us to do a drop-in fee. Again, we did not think we were going to be able to have that sophistication in the software, but we have been able to do so with GlowFox. So I'm happy to let you know that for those individuals who may be visiting from out of town, who may be staying at the new hotel close to Menorah and perhaps might want to have a game of pickleball during one of the pass holder hours, they are now able to go right to GlowFox, purchase a one-time pass, a drop-in fee, I should say, and they can enjoy the courts while they're visiting Mono. So that is up and running. We're just a little over a week into it, but recreation staff are looking after the running of that software, and they're doing an awesome job. And yeah, there's been a couple of hiccups along the way, but we are working those out as we become aware of them, and really pleased with the results so far. So happy to let you know that the pass holders the passes are being sold, and it seems quite popular.
I saw something on one of the Facebook groups that somebody was pleased they took a picture of the court and said that they'd got their pass and whatever. So more advertising for us. Can you tell us what the drop-in fee is?
Drop-in fee is $20 for 1 hour. Great. Okay. The next thing is just wanting to let council know, I know you spoke about it a little bit this morning, but recreation staff are making their way through the trails right now after the winter. There are some limbs that still need our attention, and as we come across them, we are looking after them. We really appreciate when residents get in touch with us and send us notification of a precarious limb that they've seen across a trail, and once they send that to us with the location, we are more than happy to go out there, check it out ourselves, and do any removal if needed. So we are working our way through the trails on that. And last but not least, Make Mono Shine. Unfortunately, we did not have the uptake on that program that we were hoping to have. I think in total we gave away something like 20 passes. I would have to just double check with my notes on it, but it certainly wasn't the uptake that we were hoping to have, so.
Okay. Mike?
Can I comment on that, Kim? Do you have any thoughts based on this year and the previous years, what we should do in the future?
I do have it on the agenda for the next RAC meeting to talk about how things went this year. And, you know, do we need to go back to that one-day event? Do we need to, you know, maybe not do the event as large as it was, but just offer the opportunity for people to bring their picked up garbage on the day of to a location? And obviously, very open to any suggestions that individuals, council may have in regards to the program. But just having people, like giving them the opportunity to come to the office, pick up the bags, pick up the gloves, give them garbage tags, there really was not a big uptake on it.
My comments are I've taken part in it twice now. The first time, the fact that we had a particular day was a focus, and we focused on that, and there was a slight amount of socializing as well. As Dave Moule said to me, "You're late with your bag," that sort of thing. And this year, I also signed up with it, and I'm still waiting to go out because I don't have a definitive date. So, yeah, it's a good program. I think it's a great program. It draws attention as well as helps deal with the trash. Yeah.
Thank you. Mike?
Thanks, Your Worship. Just bear with me a bit here because I got Fred's as well. So from Fred, and I guess myself as well. Caledon Hills Bruce Trail Club has withdrawn their request from for the use of the land on Hockley Road. They did a presentation some time ago, and they have subsequently removed their request to put a trail on that property. Council's aware of that as it was identified prior to the town hall meeting. Mike BYLAWS from Rosemont District Fire Board will be here on June 10th to present the annual Rosemont Fire annual report. That's as a follow-up to what I'll talk about later. Dave Pratt, Fire Chief of the Shelburne District Fire Board, will be scheduled for June the 24th to present the Shelburne annual report and answer any concerns or questions from council. Noise bylaw will be coming back on May 27th for, second reading, I believe. The firearms bylaw will be coming back on June 24th. And the province has reintroduced some amendments to the Municipal Accountability Act. Looks like they've added a little more clarity on some of the relationships between the commissioner and the integrity commissioner. The integrity commissioner as well as clarified a definition in the act. So doesn't seem anything that council should really be too concerned about, but it talks about the council code of conduct, and Fred will probably have more if there's any concerns for council. So that was it for Fred's report. With respect to my report, following up on Matt's, thanking Sylvia Medeiros for taking over the tree day, I'd like to put a shout out to Christine Tovey, who ran the program for myself, the tree program. She did that for probably the last 10 years. And a shout out to Christine for a great job that she did for us. And now that's been moved over to Matt and his team. Dufferin Board of Trade received they released a news bulletin the other day, May 12th. The Dufferin Board of Trade was greatly honored to receive the Chairs Award for Innovative Service during the awards night at the recent Ontario Chamber of Commerce convention in Windsor. So shout out to Dufferin Board of Trade for winning that award down in Windsor, which just occurred. Just for council's information, Not quite sure if you know who our major implementer of speed control is in Mono for the OPP, but Larry Makowski has provided notice of retirement, and that will be on May 29th at the OPP. I can't recall whether it's Orangeville or Primrose, but as there'll be a drop-in for him on May 29th at 1 o'clock. I'll get, once I get more information out to council, I plan to write a letter from the CAO's office. If John, if you want a letter of appreciation, Lisa is starting to put together a draft for me, and maybe we'll just do it jointly or do it, if council wants me, I'll just do it on behalf of council. That captures us all. If council's in support of that, that'd be great. I participated in the Economic Development Explore Dufferin Investors Tour. That was held April 23rd. Started at the Hockley Inn. We ended up at the Mansfield Outdoor Center. Did the Athletes Institute. Did Bluebird on Broadway, where we had speeches from the individual owners and also from some of the staff that are involved in the economic development that the county did, as well as Orangeville. My general comment of it, everybody in Mono, everybody in Dufferin should have been involved in this. It was a great experience. It was good to see the business owners. It was good to listen to their thoughts, and having lived here for 15 years, it was a tour I could recommend to people if it was a tour. But anyway, it was a great day, and we ended up at the Adamo Winery to finalize the tour with an explanation on how they're functioning with their wine creation. So it was good. It was a good day. Walkerton anniversary. This marks 25 years of the Walkerton tragedy. While the Walkerton tragedy resulted in major advancements in monitoring for municipal drinking water systems, Walkerton is taking the approach this year to remind all the rural residents that this doesn't stop at municipal monitoring of your well water. It's important that you don't fall into the same category that the municipal systems did 25 years ago, causing the deaths of children. Get your water tested. Be uphill of cattle, manure farms. Not funny, but true. And there are testing bottles in the front of the office here for those on private systems. And it's very important to continue to monitor your private source while the municipal systems continue to do their business. I met, there's been quite a few discussions in the last couple of council meetings with respect to the fire boards. I met with Councillor Davey and Councillor Capes with respect to the Rosemont District Fire Board. That was last week. And I also met with Deputy Nix and Councillor Davey with respect to the Shelburne District Fire Board. I stand here and state the same statement that I made probably a month ago. The town of Mono and the residents should feel very comfortable that our board members are on top of things. Our fire board districts are running great service, and we'll get to talk to Chief Pratt and Chief BYLAWS in the coming months, and I feel that Mono residents are being well served by our board members, and not by extension the chiefs in those departments, and I see no red flags or anything to discuss with council with respect to that. Same flavor as Mono, though. There's money needed to continue to do things. So, but that's common across the board. I'm in discussions right now with Orangeville District Fire Services with respect to a repeater on the water tower. They're looking to increase their radio communications and to extend it. This would also extend it into the valley, into Hockley Valley. So we're working with them, and I'll bring, once I get the agreement and the particulars of that finalized, I will bring that back to council. And still, John, just so you know, I haven't heard from Vianet, but we are. Vianet has a copy of a draft agreement to install a repeater or an extension of their internet on our water tower as well, but we haven't heard from them. So, with respect to the draft agreement, so. And that, unless council has any questions, is all I have.
Anything? Linda?
Thank you very much. Aside from the fire board meetings that I've been attending and the Centre Dufferin Recreation Centre, things are all moving along. The fire board, as our CAO has referred to, there's still, discussions around the whole Dufferin service report, but we're confident that the service is adequate the way it is, and why mess with a good thing? And we're waiting, and I'm waiting for the next RAC meeting. We've had some difficulty getting quorum, but to discuss those things that Kim has brought up, and we'll bring back something next month, maybe.
Okay. Ralph?
Just one comment about the Board of Health meeting, which was on May the 7th. We had a series of reports, as we usually do, but one I thought was outstanding, and one people may not know about, and it's the Board of Health's embrace of AI technology to update their ability to provide necessary services. This is a very interesting board. They are very creative, and I have to give credit to the senior staff and the medical director, Dr. Mercer. She creates an environment in which the senior staff feel free to look into new solutions and to make recommendations. And one of these is in the use of AI. And they're using it at the moment in 5 particular areas, and I'll just tell you about one of them. As you know, that there's a small, shall we say, epidemic of measles. So one of the things that they've done with their AI is create a program which allows them to access vaccine records. So they look at the vaccine records of all children in the Wellington, Dufferin, Guelph area, which I think is about 270 people, and a proportion of them are children. Look at these records and find which ones are not vaccinated, which ones have never been vaccinated, and which ones are objecting on various religious or other grounds, and come up with these answers in moments, and also generate a letter. So a letter went out, which was an individualized letter to 5,000 people over a very short period of a few days, detailing what the issues were and what their particular status was and their recommendations. And this is just an example of the use of AI for something that otherwise done manually would take forever. And so I just thought you should know that this is and they're using a chat Copilot and other ChatGPT and Copilot and other programs which I don't understand. It's a very interesting initiative. And they're using this also, piloting it for other things where there's a lot of data or a lot of, shall we say, phone calls that need to be answered. Otherwise, there's nothing else from public health.
Thank you. Elaine?
Thank you. So, yes, there have been a number of meetings focused on fire boards and much appreciated conversations. I was at the Heritage meeting last night, in which I've been assigned some follow-up items, which I will be coming to staff for, so be forewarned. And also, we have a DEI meeting tomorrow night. And just thanks to staff for the great job that you are doing. people are very happy out there in our community, and I want to just read you something here. So I think we should all start thinking about taxes as an investment in our collective care. And I'll just give you a bit of information that in Scandinavia, they have the highest taxes and they have the highest happiness index. Just leave that out there.
Good point. Fred?
Yeah, well, just having done my taxes, I'm extremely happy. I've been at 2 meetings, which I can report on, one last Friday at Credit Valley Conservation. It's too complicated to explain here, but they've developed what they call an action plan that took the strategic plan, which is fairly high level, and reduced it down to a series of actually specific things they're going to do. I won't get into details. It was impressive, but it's a lot of detail. The second meeting, which Melinda has already reported on, was last Tuesday, the Shelburne District Fire Board. And I think from my perspective, there's 2 things that came out of there. One, on the whole issue of what services we get and whether we have enough firefighters with enough certificates in those areas. We're making great progress, but here's the downside. The chief did a forecast of the budget, what the impact of these training costs are going to be on the budget. The expected cost next year would be 15.4% increase in our budget, and the year after 16.5%. And that's just operating costs. It does not include capital. So, Your Worship, I know you're the one who's always concerned about how much fire departments are costing us. Be prepared for some more surprises in 2025 and 2026 and 7, because the costs are still going to go up. I guess the other thing coming out of that meeting is the fire chief had been asked to investigate a particular model of governance, which he did. I don't think Melinda and I were impressed with it. I think we're alone in that. The other 8 members of the fire board seem to be, without knowing exactly where they're heading, they do seem to be heading or wanting a different structure than we now have. Exactly what that structure is, I don't know. It started with Mulmer's idea of a North Dufferin Fire Board, which would include Rosemount and Mulmer-Melanchthon. I think, Melinda, if I'm putting words in your mouth, please correct me. My problem with the suggestions being made is nobody has yet been able to show me the benefits of changing the structure we now have. This council voted unanimously that we're happy with the current structure, and I'm going to stick with that. So that gives me a problem because the current chair of the board has said we probably will hold a special meeting, not even a meeting because that would be formal, but a discussion of governance issues. And I was told directly, Fred, please come with an open mind, which means, Fred, we hope you change your position. Unless council wants to re-discuss this issue, I do not intend to change my position. My position is I'm happy with the status quo. I think that's all I have to report, Your Worship.
Thank you. Elaine?
Thank you.
Sorry. I'll get you to next. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Fred, for that. And yes, if there's no clear line of sight to what could be the highest potential outcome and what could be better, then there's no reason to change.
Exactly.
I agree with you.
Exactly.
Well, and then
I was going to say the same thing. I was on the board at Rosemont for 6 years and the chair for a few years. I thought it worked extremely well. And the saying that if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it. I'm supporting very much your position, Fred.
Melinda.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it just, and this is why I was a bit more succinct in my report than Fred with giving the details, only because it's going around and round in circles, and it stems from the report, but it also is, and you mentioned it. I mean, the whole downloading of the training the training, the firefighters, our public needs to be clear that our firefighters and quote levels of service have been more than adequate. What's happened is that there has been a demand for real, frank certifications, which cost money. So the training was happening already. The firefighters were trained in doing the job, but now in order to do that, you need to be certified. In order to be certified, it takes time. And so therefore, X number of courses for X number of weeks has to stretch over, when you've got 22 firefighters, has to stretch over months and years. And in conjunction with saying that you have to be certified, there are dates that go with that. And the dates that we were coming up with and working very diligently in all the fire departments to meet was July 1st, 2026, or January 1st, 2026, so 6 months from now. And then the next date is 2028. And so it's like, well, since we have to have some changes, maybe, let's change the whole thing while we're changing. But my view would be, let's get under our belt meeting these new requirements before we start mucking about with what everything is doing. But rest assured that our services are continuing, and we're just working through some partnership discussions that will not affect our service.
Hear, hear. I have nothing to report that I can think of at the moment, but I will think of something later. So that takes us to notices of motion, and I would think we would acknowledge Ralph's forthcoming notice of motion with regard to the soils issue. I asked at the outset whether council would indulge me on a brief discussion, potentially a motion on Bill 5, which came up as a topic at the town hall meeting. It also came up on the agenda of Orangeville Council last night, and Councillor Pendergrass introduced with the agreement of council a motion so that they would be in a position to comment both for the environmental registry purpose and for the legislative committee purpose of the opposition to aspects of Bill 5. So if council will indulge me, I'd like to dispense with any rules to introduce a motion for our consideration. I'll read it. I've sent a copy to. And there's a timing issue. The deadline for the environmental registry, I think, is the 17th, May 17th. And for written submissions to the legislative committee, I believe it's a day or two prior to our next council meeting. So there is a sense of urgency on this. So I'm going to read my motion, and it is largely based on Councillor Pendergrass' wording. Whereas the government of Ontario has introduced Bill 5, Protecting Ontario by Unleashing Our Economy Act 2025, which proposes substantial changes to environmental planning legislation, including repeal of the Endangered Species Act and the creation of, quote, special economic zones, unquote, that may override local planning authority. And whereas the town of Mono supports increased housing supply and economic growth, but also believes this must be achieved without undermining environmental protections, compromising the integrity and compromising the integrity of municipal planning processes and finances. And whereas Bill 5 weakens safeguards for Ontario's natural heritage and reduces the role of municipalities in managing growth in a responsible and locally informed manner, therefore be it resolved that the town of Mono opposes provisions in Bill 5 that would reduce environmental protections and/or override municipal planning authority, and encourages the province of Ontario to advance housing and infrastructure growth through policies that respect sound environmental planning principles, that uphold local planning tools, along with recognizing that development must offset its costs, lest this fall upon local taxpayers, and that this resolution be forwarded to, and there's a list of recipients, including the Premier, the MPP, various ministers, the Association of Ontario Municipalities, and all other municipalities in Ontario. So I'd like to move that if I can. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Davey, seconds. Discussion?
I think it's great. I think it's fine. There are some other issues that, you know, if I were writing it, I would have added, but I think that's good. Like, for example, getting rid of the requirement to consult with First Nations on some development proposals. I personally think that's a real tragedy, and probably,
It's illegal.
yeah, it's probably illegal. Probably the bill will be challenged on that. So I think just for getting our voice in the public domain, I think the resolution you have is fine.
Any other thoughts? Seeing none, call the question. Any opposed? And that passes unanimously, and we will forward it along with many, many others to the committee in question. Mike, any thoughts?
Just trying to do, don't want Fred getting upset with us. So I think if council will identify that we amended the agenda to add the Bill 5 discussion to new business. However, in the council further identified that an addition or an allowance to a notice of motion was equally satisfied that amended agenda.
Do we have to pass a motion?
No, I'm just stating, we amended the agenda for Bill 5 to go into new business.
And we overlooked the requirement to have a notice of.
We overlooked the requirement under new business, and we went straight to a notice of motion, which your worship did ask council's indulgence on. I think we're good. I just want to have this discussion. I'll tell Fred we had this discussion. I had it, and make sure the clerk realizes
I
that
think
council was all in agreement to
It
talk
should've-
about Bill 5, and we also agreed on the
And the
notice of
minutes
motion.
should reflect this.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying everything. I think that's terrific. I think just in general, right? Like when you read this thing, it's shocking, and how could this happen? And then not only is it shocking, how could it happen? But the date is tomorrow. They want you to whatever, if you're going to get an opportunity to say anything, and so they're pushing us to do things quickly. But my question was, how has it already been read twice and none of us have heard about it until this final thing? And this, because it happened in our own world here, where the public hears a reading first, which makes sense, but the idea that if it's already a bylaw and we're reading it the first time, like, shouldn't I as a community member been involved in it beforehand? It's like, no, the process is that this is an opportunity to get our ducks in a row and have an appropriate bylaw and present it at the first reading. How did this happen? How did this happen?
It's easy. First readings in the Ontario legislature are basically pro forma. There's no debate. The minister gets up, tables the act, and then it goes to second reading at the determination of the government. If the government wants to fast-track something, second reading could take place. I don't know if it could take place the same day, but it could certainly take place the next day. And then they make a decision, does it go to committee or doesn't it go to committee? So in this case, they dare not proceed with it without going to committee. So not all bills go to the committee automatically. This one has gone off to committee, and then at committee, the timelines are incredibly tight. At least in my experience, this one they really want to pass fast, and before the word spreads, frankly. So that's sort of the mechanics of the legislature. One comment I was going to make was, I just find it so ironic that this is such a one-way street. They are telling us what to do all the time. But do they ever listen to what we would like from them? And the answer is no, they don't. It's all a one-way street. You know, we have suggested amendments to regulations, amendments to law, and it is an utter waste of time. I'm even debating not going to the AMO meeting this year because I've been to meeting after meeting, and we make presentations to ministers, and they say, we'll take it under advisement, and then you never hear anything from them. And I'm just wondering what the purpose of that exercise is, but I haven't made up my mind yet. Elaine?
Thank you, Your Worship. You make a good point, and I know that other communities have done this. I think we should invite Sylvia Jones to come to the table and talk to us about why it is such a one-sided democracy that we have right now in that Queen's Park construction, and ask her some questions about why are these things being fast-tracked? Why are the municipalities being blindsided? Why are the municipalities not being respected? This is bad. This is really, really bad. And I know you're saying don't go to AMO, but there is an opportunity at AMO when all of the leaders get up to speak to actually be there. And maybe we all go down there and give them a piece of our minds, just for that.
Melinda?
So I've heard while we were at the various fire board meetings that Sylvia Jones has in person responded to the invitation. So I guess we should send an invitation, because I always want to look at the good side of everything and give everybody always the benefit of the doubt. And if you really do want to change our environmental rules and build more houses and things like that, you know, given enough time to talk about whether we don't care about caribou anymore, I mean, at least some time to discuss it, so that then you can come up with it. Like, it seems so flat-footed, and I know that what you say about disrespectful and those kinds of things, but I just would like more discussion and dialogue with the people and the government.
Well, let's remember that when we talked about inviting her, we wanted to get past the town hall meeting before we did so. But I think now is the time that we should put an invitation to her. And maybe if members of council could communicate with me by way of email as to topics they would like to raise, and then Mike and myself can compose an invitation. And it is true, she is attending municipal council meetings around the county now. So now is our time. The other thing that I'd say about AMO, and that was a bit of a rant on my part, they are particularly anemic when it comes to responses on this kind of thing. If you read what they have on their website about Bill 5, you'd think they were fellow travelers with the province of Ontario. And they're so appreciative of the chance to interact with the minister, and I've let the president of AMO, who I have had some good interactions with, I've let her know that we should stop collaborating with them. Like when municipalities are against something like strong mayor powers, say so, but don't, as AMO has done, suggest that, well, you know, it's all a big misunderstanding about strong mayor powers. We need more educational programs put out by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs as to what strong mayor powers are. That's literally their position right now. I digress. So we'll work on that. Elaine?
So we need to pressure AMO too.
I'd say so. I challenge the president of AMO to have a straight up or down vote on strong mayor powers in Ottawa. And I think you'd find that, save and except for a few mayors who seem to love them, the majority of municipally elected people in Ontario do not approve of strong mayor powers. And Orangeville renounced strong mayor powers at its meeting last night.
Yeah, well, and she did publicly too, right? It was all on
Yes,
social, which was
did a
to be
wonderful
commended.
job.
But didn't she accept strong mayor powers?
She had to then bring back to say that, no, we're going to renounce them, but she had to.
She had to invoke strong mayor powers to put the decision-making back in the hands of the CAO and the treasurer, and that was the formal way of renouncing that she as a mayor was not going to exercise those powers. And then they passed a motion on top of that, denouncing strong mayor powers, as we have as a municipality, and also urging the province to withdraw the whole concept.
Okay, well, thank you for that update. I didn't know that. Great.
Okay, moving along. I have a motion on in-camera matters that council move into a closed session meeting pursuant to Section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended at 2 minutes past 12 p.m. for Anderson Heritage Designation OLT Appeal, Section 239, subsection 2, subsection E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. This will be very brief. Mover? Councillor Capes moves, seconded by Councillor Mantalo. Any opposed? And that motion is carried.
We're back live.
Thank you, and I have a motion that we rise from an in-camera session at 12:13 PM and direct staff to proceed accordingly. Do I have a mover on that? Councillor Mantalo, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nix. Any opposed? And that motion is carried. And I have a motion that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council of the Town of Mono in Session 9-2025 held on 13th May 2025, that it be signed by the Mayor and Clerk, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Councillor Capes moves, seconded by Councillor Davey. Any opposed? And that motion is carried. And finally, I have a motion that we adjourn this meeting at 12:14 PM. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Capes. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you later, Elaine.
Thank you.